Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now, let the stories begin. Okay, everybody, I hope you are as excited as I am because you're about to, I always tell my listeners, if you're driving a car, this might be one of those times that you want to pull over because you're about to meet somebody that I was just telling this amazing woman that I can't believe I met you so recently, and I feel like I've missed out on so much by not knowing you my whole life. And that is truly how I feel. Get ready because you're about to experience so much that we can't even do it in 30 minutes. World, I'd love to introduce you to Tess Cacciatore, just like the chicken. I had to say it, Tess, you're here.
You have to say it. It just makes sense. And I don't even know where to start with that introduction. I feel so humbled and honored to be here. I'm so excited.
Oh, okay. Now, but humble is the word that describes who you are. And yet when you learn and find out all that you've done and what you continue to do in this world to make a difference, I honestly don't know that I've met anybody quite like you, or at least I can say I haven't had the privilege of interviewing somebody that I would love to just showcase because Tess, where do we begin? There's so much I want to talk about and share with everybody, but, I guess we should let's start with the present and then take us to the journey behind that. But you're getting ready. You've launched the book, which just the title in itself makes you go, you hand me your card and I'm like, I need to know this book, Humblest to the White House, right?
Yes. Pretty timely, right?
Isn't it? Tell me about that book and just tell us about where that started the journey of where we're going to be today.
So this has been a lifetime of a journey, knowing that I was going to write something. But of course, we have, that whole conversation in our head, like, well, my life isn't even beginning yet. So how can I write a life story? But it became pretty evident in 2010 that I needed just to start writing something. So for the last 6 years, I've been jotting down and remembering and journaling and putting it together into some semblance until just recently it all made sense to me with another radio interview that I did. And my friend said, you have so much here. Why are you giving your first chapter away for free? Because I needed to get the first chapter out before the election, which I'll explain to you. She said, you should make it into a trilogy. That word just lit my life on fire. I'm like, that's what I love, the trilogy. I love the triangle. I love the number 3, and everything just visually in my head fell into place. And I knew exactly what the trilogy was going to be about. It was like it unlocked for me. So just to give you a little hint, the part 1 of Humblest to the White House is called The Rabbit Hunter. Mm-hmm. And I think that all of us might be able to relate to the concept of the rabbit and having the carrot being dangled in front of our face, whether it be jobs or our parents or our siblings or our love life or whatever. There's always that carrot that's been dangling. And I've just found myself in many, many rabbit holes. And one of the rabbit holes that I discovered while I was reminiscing and writing was how the book opens. And that is me in the backseat of a car. And it's a car that I rented with a driver and a translator. And I'm in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in that position at that point, I was really, really doubled over in pain. I had some kind of a stomach virus. I was there undercover, which to film in Congo to begin with is dangerous, but to go undercover because I was being hired by this man who wanted to run for president of Congo.
Wow.
And he wasn't there. He sent me in there, alone. And I look up and there's a military guard coming at me with a gun pointed at me. And thank God he's on foot and I'm in a car and I say, get out of here, or in so many words. Yeah. And that's the opening of the book. So just to kind of set the stage for the rabbit hunter and where we go from there. And then the full book will be released in March, which is going to be March 8th on International Women's Day, which will launch alongside of Gwen, which is something else we'll probably talk about today as well.
Oh, yes, we're going to go there. And just to think that March 8th is going to be here before we know it. And I know that a lot of the women listeners out there, from around the world, that's a big day, March 8th, International International Women's Day. And so, Tess, you just casually hit on this. And so I would like to pause and make sure that everyone gets to hear me just shine the spotlight on you. But Tess has been for 20 years in the film production and television industry. You're an award-winning producer. You've dedicated your life to advocating for peace and justice and equality in our world. And what's mind-boggling is not only have you done that from living behind the camera to being in front of the camera to being writing around this, it's also been a big part of what provoked you to become huge in the advocacy. And you've done a lot with the United Nations. You've spoken quite a bit at the United Nations. And I must say you received quite an acknowledgement and an award from the United Nations for human rights. So, I mean, there's just this beautiful bouquet of who you are and what you're doing. And so love for everybody to know about that book is coming, but take us to, when I think about the most pivotal moments for us in our lifetime and for you, Tess, share, maybe it goes back to your childhood. Maybe it was early as getting out into the career world, but what was one of the most pivotal moments for you, my friend, as you thought about the journey that you're taking and the choices you've made?
I'm not sure if I was realizing it was a pivotal moment at the time, but obviously in retrospect, we can always look back and say, oh, this was an interesting bridge that I crossed. And going back to my childhood, when I was in high school, I went to, guess what, Dowling High School.
No, you didn't.
I did. In Des Moines, Iowa, Holly Dowling.
Oh, I love that.
So I went to Dowling High School, which it was a private Catholic school. What I loved about the school is that they really encouraged us to do volunteer work. So I was really excited to do the Special Olympics every year I was in high school, because the Special Olympics came to Des Moines at Drake University. I also did a lot of work with regard to special needs and volunteer work at the elderly homes, and did a lot of work through Girl Scouts when I was younger. And I just think that somehow I must have been wired to be that. And, I came from a wonderful family that was always very giving and conscious that way too. But I think I was kind of like the goody two shoes in my family. And not to say that I wasn't a rebel and all kinds of crazy stuff like that, because we're all a myriad of things. But I think when my grandfather passed, who I was really, really madly in love with, as I still am today, he's one of the most instrumental people in my life and taught me many lessons. When he passed when I was probably 15 or 16, that was a pivotal time for me. Definitely with regard to many things. And then as I went on through life, I just kind of continued to go into the entertainment industry and having to do with something to do with social good and human rights. I've just always been very passionate about that.
So what's your proudest moment when you think about the work that you've had the privilege of doing in that arena? Is it a film that you've done, you've written, you've produced? What's a proud moment?
Well, I think that I'm still so chomping at the bit to accomplish so many things that I have kind of in the can and ready to go out. But I think the collective of any time that I can I just see this flash of a multitude of images for me. And each and every image comes to mind has to do with me being, with people in need, specifically the orphanages that I've been able to work with and visit over the years. I just see these beautiful faces from Africa to Cambodia to Thailand to Sri Lanka. We went in and built 38 homes after the tsunami, and just seeing these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful faces, those images, that collage of that global children just kind of flashes before my eyes. So I don't think it's really pinpointed to any proud moment. I guess pride comes with the fact of how you energetically shift of being happy in that moment, so I think those are the kind of moments that are most meaningful for me.
Well, and I think I'm so excited because you're going to get to share with everybody here in a moment. The biggest, huge moment of 20-year vision is getting ready to be launched. So, and like I said earlier, the other part of the story, though, is that Tess has changed her name many times. And that's part of a story we were talking about earlier going, well, you should write a book about that. I mean, you've changed it many times because of the industry, right?
Yes. My given name is Tess Cacciatore. And when I went to New York when I was in my 20s, I was going out on auditions, and there was a lot of people that kind of just said, oh, Mama Cacciatore, blah, blah, blah. So they expected to see, a woman probably much older than I was in my 20s, and I'm tall and blonde and blue-eyed, and they were just not getting the image with the name. So I Americanized my last name to Hunter, because that Cacciatore means the hunter. So I was Teresa Hunter, then I was Teresa Kay. When I did a seamstress business, I was Tori for the last name of Cacciatore for my music project. Gosh, I don't know. There's a funny story of a mentor teacher of mine that changed my name for a brief moment to Carla Cacciatore. It's insane. It's really kind of funny. But Mervyn, I have to tell you, Mervyn Nelson was one of my mentors in the acting side, and wonderful, wonderful acting coach. And he actually worked with Marilyn Monroe and all kinds of amazing people when he was younger, because when he started teaching me, he probably was already in his 60s. And so he's done work with Harry Belafonte and Eric Estrada and a lot of really wonderful people. So I just admired him so much that when he said, well, let's change your name to Carla Cacciatore, I'm like, I don't think so, Mervyn. It doesn't resonate with me. Sounds like a 1950s stripper name or something.
It kind of does. I'm sorry. It just works, right?
Yes. Somewhere in the universe, there's a United Airlines magazine with an article about the rising star, the voice without the household name, but everyone knew him, and then Judith Ivey, who was like this big TV star at the time. And there's an article somewhere in the universe that has Carla Cacciatore, and that's the only place it ever appeared. And there you go.
Oh, I love it. Well, and you're about to take on a new name, and just by default, but also because it's your dream. So I can't wait for you to tell everybody about this. And I'm going to call you Gwen, because she is getting ready to launch a 20-year passion called the Gwen Network. And prior to us telling us about that, Tess, so I'm fascinated. Your passion for youth around the world. This precedes, the Global Women's Empowerment Network that you're going to tell us about. But you were the founder and executive director of the World Trust Foundation, an organization mentoring youth. Tell us about this. I have a lot of listeners that are always eager to learn and find out ways that they can serve or do things like this. So tell us about that.
Well, World Trust Foundation came out of, which will be, the fuller story is going to be in my book, obviously, but the Reader's Digest version is that in 1993, I was living back in Iowa for a brief time, and this guy who I had met during the rebuild of LA during the riots, we had done South Central, and we were working with the gangs and rebuilding the community, etc. And he contacted me out of the blue and said, hey, you have a production background and you're in the music industry. Can you help us produce a compilation of music? And we want to give it to a coalition of nonprofit organizations. And I said, absolutely. So I came back out here thinking I was only going to be here for 6 months. And we formed World Jam One, which was 47 artists all around the world. It was a 4 CD box set. Interactive music, which back in 93, people are like, well, what do you mean interactive music? And I just loved technology. I loved where we were going technology-wise. And I said, well, you can put it in your computer and you can listen to the videos and watch the pop-ups of the lyrics. And people were not even knowing what email was at that point. So it was a project that was a little ahead of its time, not only in that concept, but also in the concept of the nonprofit organizations. Back then, they didn't want to play in each other's sandbox. So I would call up and say, hey, we want to raise money for you. And they would yell at me.
Really?
Seriously. Yeah. They would yell. Well, because they thought I wanted their database or something. I said, no, I don't want your database. I just think you do great work and I want to give you money from the proceeds of this. So this whole project kind of just went spiraling downward. And so in the meantime, I got more passionate about the nonprofit. So I started World Trust Foundation. And the guy who came in from the nonprofit side was a latent guitar rock guy, and he said, I'm going to start the record company. So we switched places, and I took off on one path and he took off on the other, but we're still dear friends in contact today. And so then watching how the technology was going around 95, 96, I said, wow, we're going to be able to see things on our mobile, and we're going to have smart houses and all kinds of stuff, because I was brought in the 93 time to be a producer, building the websites and being on the main team of like Sun Microsystems and Lotus UK and all kinds of fun little big companies that did their website presence for the first time. So we were part of branding all of these companies. And I said, well, I want to do World Trust Network. I want to do a network where we can have TV shows and films and our music compilations and all that kind of stuff on one place. And let's do this. So I wrote a business plan that's still in existence on one of my hard drives that still exists today called WTN. And it's IPTV back then, the Internet Protocol Television Network. I was tired of trying to make the nonprofits come together and work together. It was just time that I wanted to go off on this branch. And then fast forward with many, many years in between and many adventures in between, Gwen came into fruition, and there was just this beautiful opportunity. Gwen is Global Women's Empowerment Network, and it's co-founded by Michael Littenberg. And I kind of came into his world to help him with this song and this plight that he wanted to do for women. And I said, I'm about women's empowerment. So we named it Gwen through various naming parties and things like that. And actually, our lawyer from D.C. was the one that came up with that name, and we just kept marching down the road. And over the last couple of years, it started to grow into like, wait a minute, I can actually do what I wanted to do 20 years ago. So right now, today,
yes,
November 30th, because I know this might air a little bit later, but November 30th, happy birthday, Mama. Just have to throw that in there.
Yes.
We're launching live the landing page, which will build the build up to build the audience to build the launch of Gwen, which will be born on March 8th along with the book. So March 8th is a big, huge delivery day. So if you guys hear lots of labor pains and breathing from California, it's the collective of all of us giving birth to Gwen.
Oh, I mean, just to hear, just from World Trust, and now it all makes sense, just learning all the amazing things you've done. This is incredible.
It's really a journey in itself that I think that each of us get to that place where, you bump up against the wall. It's almost like I feel like one of those bumper cars, bumping up, and then you're like, oh my God, it's supposed to go this way and it's supposed to go that way. And I would get really frustrated with myself. Like when people would ask me, when's your book coming out? When's your book coming out? I would see my friends popping up left and right with their books that they finished. And I was kidding. I was just beating myself up left and right. And then just recently, I just went, oh my God, this is what it is. And I think that's a really important lesson for really people to get, is that we hear all the time, it's such a cliche, that it's all in divine timing and it'll be when it's going to be. And I would roll my eyes and, huff and puff and say, but wait a minute, it needs to be now. And then you just have to surrender, which I did several years ago, and just let it flow and just have faith. And there you go. And so now I get to say, oh, that made sense. Then it couldn't have gone then. It had to go now.
And it's just uncanny how when you do allow the universe and the divine to happen like that, Tess, it literally, but it's hard for us, especially as people that are doers and movers, right? It's like that whole, I always have to say, pray and get out of my way. I'm clenching my fists as I say it, because I'm I know, but you can see things and you want to make it happen, but yet sometimes just the letting go and let the flow happen. And it's just like the day we met. I literally have to say, this is just so crazy, but I had to do a quick trip. I was coming in really quick for the World Economic Forum for that event in Santa Barbara. And I literally was finishing being on a panel on stage. And this beautiful woman with blue eyes comes running up and hands me her card. And it's Tess. And she's like, I need to know who you are and I want your pants.
Exactly. Oh my God, your pants were fantastic.
And I remember that moment. I was just trying to get off that stage and I'm like, we are meant to be. And then the minute we started to talk, it was just like, just that moment of being in the right place with the right people and trusting that's where you're supposed to be. So I am beyond thrilled with what you are creating and incubating and this amazing gift you're bringing the world with Gwen. Will you give us some education around what it is, what it's going to look like, what the big dream is, but what it's going to look right now? Because I'd like my listeners to be able to start getting, exposed to it as soon as possible.
Yes, but before I answer that, I just need to know, just to talk just very quickly about how synergies work and to let things, the whole process of letting go is because there was 1,000 reasons why I wasn't supposed to go up there that day and 1,000 reasons why I was going to be delayed. And I got there early and I just happened to walk in and sit down and you were at the end of the time of your speaking. And I was like, oh my God, I need to meet her. So it's all about really just surrendering in that and letting ourselves know that it's all going to work out. And that ties into where we are today. So what Gwen is exactly what I thought it was going to be back in the 90s, which, when you come to a portal, if you can imagine, now I can say, if you can imagine Amazon, because back in the 90s, we didn't have anything like that. So if you can imagine Amazon, we're going to have a film division that has feature films. It'll have documentaries. It'll have shorts. We have a television division that will range anywhere from talk shows to lifestyle to fitness to cooking to, we even have this really great series that is called The Life Chronicles. And it's this woman who has over 1,500 episodes of being a doula for life transition.
Yes. That's Kate Carter, right?
Yes.
Yes. It's amazing.
Yes. So there's so many wonderful, very different and unique types of programming. Then if you just don't have enough with that, you can go into our music store. We're going to have compilations for a cause. Those are our individually produced compilations of 10 songs each in 5 different genres. But we're also going to be featuring amazing artists and musicians that I've known over the years, as well as all the community. I really want it to be a community-focused network where people can say, hey, have you seen this artist out of Portland? Have you seen this artist out of Singapore? And really just kind of do this whole creative place where we can really, tap into artists around the world that haven't been noticed yet. And then we have the book situation as well. So we'll be already producing our own books. My book will be out there, obviously, launching Gwen Books, but we're also going to be able to highlight and sell in our bookstore books that are already published. And then there's a global marketplace and a live stream. And I'm really excited about the live stream because every day we're going to be giving our members something really juicy to talk about and really feel, or something to do in their community. And it will build up to all these other wonderful things that will be exposed as we go. And the live streams are going to be highlighting people like you, that we can come and do a live stream and really tap into what we want to do in our community, how we can really take the hubs around the United States and then eventually around the world. We already have women in Europe and Africa and Asia that are on board, that are ready to go. So it's going to be a really global, fun party to really be able to bring social good and humanitarian work to the surface and celebrate life and to have a lot of fun doing it, and know that there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world today. Mm-hmm. And if we could just hunker down and hold hands and unite, I think there could be a really big, wonderful, beautiful light shift that happens, and it all begins with us.
I just love it. I'm just sitting here smiling as I'm listening to you. And honestly, I think this is so needed. I think, look at the timing, Tess. I mean, our world, not just our country, our world. I use a line. I say we're in a famine for emotional nutrition. We are emotionally starved. And this world and our country, there couldn't be a better timing for this. I'm just in awe of it. And I went out to look because I just feel so honored to be a part of a lot of these women that are out there, part of this group. And you've got women from around the world, and coming together for one united cause. Too. Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. I mean, you have amazing, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, wow. And so what would you love? So let's just put an ask out there to the folks listening, because we have a lot of men and women around the world that are listeners of these podcasts. What would you love for our listeners to know, or what would you ask of them? What would you like them to do? Just to stay close in touch with us, to get on the platform yet? What's your ask?
I just say, let's go online, sign up, and let's get going, because we're going to be in touch with everybody along the way leading up to the birth of Gwen on March 8th, which is going to be this collective global sigh. I want to know that even though people accidentally call me Gwen, I love it, but I'm just the representation of a small segment of the global Gwen, because everyone is Gwen. And I really want to provide that space where we can collaborate and co-create. So sign up and join us. And where we can do that at is Gwen.live. And any of our other URLs will be pointing towards that. So if you happen to go to gwennetwork.com or any of the other ones that have the Gwen, home from previous URLs, you can always find us. But Gwen.live will be the official site. And we're going to keep on keeping on.
Oh, it's so exciting. And just the timing that when we met and then today, that all things aligned, that we could do the interview today, and knowing today was such a big day for you. I mean, it's just there's no coincidence. It's a divine incident, and it is happening.
Yes.
And secretly, I just have to say right now, as I was listening to you go in more detail, I have 3 boys and my youngest is now on tour right now, but he is a music producer and audio engineer. And I can't wait for him to get to hear this and know, because he has to find a way to be connected, passionate about bringing music around the world. So it's been fascinating to, and don't you think, Tess, part of what you're doing with Gwen, and I'm going to call you Tess and not Gwen, but I might slip again. It's really if you think about it at the end of the day, and this is why I feel so passionate about what you're doing and to help support and serve, is that what everyone really needs is to fall back in love with who they are, what their gifts are, and how do we shine the spotlight and really bring your brilliance out. And that's what I see this network doing. You're literally giving people a platform so their brilliance can shine.
Oh, thank you. And the self-love is such a huge portion of it. I just love that you said that, because that's one of the cornerstones of it. And I also want to mention what I say all the time is we can't do Gwen without the men. So I love that you want to bring your sons in there, and we want to bring our husbands and our fathers and our brothers and our male counterparts, business partners, whatever, because it's really, we have 2 great shows that you'll see on the network pretty much on the launch. And one's called Art of Man, which is celebrating men who have found their purpose and passion. And then we have this really cool talk show called Man Up, which is every episode is different men, but we talk about all these really wonderful topics. So the men is a really, really important part of it all.
I love that you just brought that up, because that was one of the things you and I talked about when we first met. And it was one of the things that I think I brought out on stage that day was people were asking about, as a woman in leadership and all of this. And it's so interesting to me, but I'm seeing that there's no longer 2 islands that exist out there. It's not women just putting a stake in the ground. It's about coming together, because I'm seeing so many men step up to be such ambassadors and champion for the women. And, we need to see that as what can we do to support each other rather than this world always still being so divided. So I loved that about Gwen, and I'm grateful that you just brought that up again. So there's a lot of men listening. So, okay, guys, think about what you would like to do to be a part of this and how you can continue to support it, because we need you. And you think about even fathers raising daughters, right? It's a whole different lens that people approach. So, thank you, Tess. I can't believe our time has just flown by. I did not tell you I was going to ask you this, so I'm going to just let you top of mind, being that you've had so many experiences. What would you give your 25-year-old self? What advice or wisdom would you give yourself at 25?
Oh, I love this question. And I know we're pushed for time, but I would have to say it would have to go with self-love. Because I think once we have self-love, everything falls into place. We have the ability to not doubt ourselves. We have the ability to be more specific on the people that we let into our lives. And a lot of this story will be revealed in my book, too, of the many different variant people that you can consider to be mistakes. But I'm very blessed that whoever came into my life, good, bad, or indifferent, crafted me to where I was today. But I wish that I would have had more of a self-love when I was in my 20s.
I love the way you just said that. And I think if that was a huge, profound moment that I don't want people to miss. And I 100% agree with you. I think we've all been through a lifetime of things, situations. We've been at our all-time lows. But instead of blaming others for those choices, it's what did we gain from that? We are rich as human beings. Our character, our resilience, right? It's made you and I and many others who we are today. So I love the self-love. Thank you. Well, I know people are going to want to learn more about you. I know we told them about the Gwen.live, Gwen Network, but how else can people get in touch with you, Tess, if they'd like to learn more or ask you questions, anything at all?
TessCacciatore.com or Tess Cacciatore on any social media platform. It's just, simple. So my name is just like the chicken cacciatore, as you said at the beginning of the show. So if you have trouble spelling it, go to look at an Italian cookbook and you'll see it there.
But your name will be on the podcast live. So at iTunes, when you go to iTunes to look at this, you get to see her gorgeous face in the artwork and they'll see your name. Thank you, amazing lady. Thank you for sharing this special day.
And I'm only a reflection of your amazingness. if that's even a word.
It is our word. We're going to make it our word.
I have Tess Dictionary, so why not, right?
Let's put that on the network. It's the Tess Dictionary, all right?
That's right.
Oh, thank you, my love. So appreciate you. Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly, though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.